In this video, I will explain how to transfer sector file data from previous existing or all the existing sector files into the new GNG database. The GNG website, we have a look at that first. Looks like that. If you hit on the sector entries, you're landing on this page. Shows empty at the moment, but we will do one entry together, and of course this may be used for any sector file which has to be transferred into GNG. GNG itself, the whole system is actually load automized already, but there are some manual steps to do, and the transfer of sector data such as ground layouts is one of them. If you have a look at the sector file, it might be interesting to first open it once with a appropriate client to have a look at and to get some impression which layout is to be transferred to the GNG. Makes the work after that a lot easier. So I will use in my example the Kenya, from the Kenya airspace, the main Nairobi airport, Kenyatta. It currently looks like that. We can see it consists of course, of a lot of lines and different colors. The probably most difficult part in the transfer to GNG is that colors can be reused, or that it appears in the same colors as before. This is probably not that easy as you might think. If you have a look at the sector file in here, this is the sector file belonging to this page displayed here. You can see always in the beginning of a sector file definition of colors. Definition of colors gives some names and assigns a color, which is actually in the background an RGB value. And you can later on use these names to assign a certain color. This of course works in GNG kind of the same way. The only difference in GNG is that you cannot just define colors like here. You have to use one of the colors defined in that list. You'll find this on navigation colors. You see here a whole list, and actually each of the color has a prefix color, so that's clearly can be clearly identified also in a sector file as a color. There is nothing to do to include this definition in the sector file later on during GNG. They all will be included, but the restriction is now that you can only use those names. So for each of those names here in the old sector file, you want to use in the new one, you have to use an appropriate name of this list. If you really miss a color and you cannot use one of those names, you may ask the GNG admins to add new names, but in general this is not necessary. Now to transfer this Kenyatta layout, we actually need to find the text or the definition in the sector file. I will have a try for this one. So this, you see here, it's pretty nice documented. You see a description of the part that follows, and you see the format, the name, so the group name, which can be used in display settings to activate or deactivate different groups of ground layout. Then you see the coordinates of of one point and the coordinates of a second point, which is draw a line between. And the last part is the color definition. This is now the one that has to be changed in order to implement or integrate this part in GNG. I will copy out everything that has to do with the Kenyatta Airport. Here we're obviously at the end, and I will just copy this text to another editor where we can now work on to prepare this data for GNG. So first of all, if we open GNG and add new entry in the sector files part, so this is now here, you can or you should choose a ICAO designator. So this would be here Otto Kilo Julia Kilo. Then you have to select a category. It makes just easier for you to find it again. This would now be ground layout, and you can add a name if you want so. This is not really necessary here because as well the ICAO designator and the category will be part of the name which is later displayed in the sector file. So a name is not mandatory to fill in. You may use that if you want to divide your layout in certain different groups. For example, if you want to have the taxiway center lines, for example, in a special group, so you can activate them and only them individually in the sector file. But for now, we will do one entry for the entire ground layout of Kenyatta. So going back to the editor, as the name of the group will be defined through these three fields in here, we don't need that for the data. So for the code part, the code part would actually then be this part. So therefore, I will just replace everything here with nothing. So as well, have a look at the order of the different parts. Of course, as I already said, it makes you very nicely to read and edit later on when you name the certain parts, so that you know which part follows now and makes it easier to edit later on. So probably names as linear feature 7. It's difficult to find it on a map if you have no visual display directly from here. But anyway, later on you see here the whole chart, the buildings, more buildings, even more buildings. Just have a look that you have a semicolon in front, so this text here remains a comment only. And then at the end you have the runway as well, the last path. The runways are at the end because you have always to think that the controller client will draw the lines in the order you give. So it will start on the top and it will draw over with lines that come later. So for example, at taxiway intersections where you have blue lines here, in case they are a little bit below or just touching the runway lines, and you draw the runway lines later, as done here, they will be drawn over the blue lines. So if you ever have a problem that the wrong line is on top, just put them lower in the sequence than the other line. So now we're replacing the colors. I will actually remove that command as well because this will be part of the entire entry here. So there's no need for that. Now we have to replace the colors. And as said, we have to use colors from here. So we have a look now what best fits those colors here. So we have, for instance, green. Green really looks like the parking positions. There's nothing else in green, so that's very nice. We can just use the replace function, and we take the parking position definition from here. I copy that, and I will replace everything that is named green with this color name. Okay, next, olive are those taxiway lines, looks like. Yep. So olive should be best replaced then by one of this taxiway. I will take that one because this is the main taxiway color. Off later on for the border, so for the blue lines I will use the taxiway border definition. If you have separate taxiways on bigger airport especially, which probably have color green or orange, you might use those definitions. For the general colors, I would suggest you to use taxiway and taxiway border. So the olive will be the taxiways itself. Then we have the blue lines. As said, I will use taxiway border for those. Now we have gray. What else is gray here? Looks like those are apron areas, but it might be that it's also the runway is color gray. So here we have to be a little bit carefully. Yeah, you see exactly the runway is as well gray. For the runway, I would best use color runway concrete. This also helps you to later on editing, if you have accurate names already, this indicates already a part of what it might be. So actually now the rest, which is gray, is kind of apron area, and for this one I would suggest to use one of the hard surfaces like that one. This is the most appropriate now. Yep. So everything that is gray will be changed to color surface 1. We continue and check here if there's any old color. Yes, we have some red. So red, and here are actually the stop bars. And for those there's as well a definition. This is the color stop bar. Replace them. Then we have yellow for buildings. Yellow. And we have here a building color. Replace everything. So you see now here color buildings, it's pretty everything. And the blast part, they had actually the same color as the buildings, but that might probably not be the best choose or best description. So here, even if it is the same color and those are both kind of yellow, it might be better for later editing or just analysis to use a different name here, but you can assign the same color here in the list as well. It depends now on you if you want to just use the color building here or a different one. So this is actually some kind of hard surface as well. Um, so this might be the chance to use a hard surface too. So here I will part of those replace like that. So, and here I change the description just to runway 0624 blast pad. Okay, so this is actually now the format the text should have before entering it to GNG. GNG will also do a cross check of the code, which can now be entered here. Actually, another tip: be carefully with clicking here, as this is only a pop-up. It will just disappear if you click on the right. So I would suggest you to not edit in data here because it can easily be lost. So use an editor for that and just copy the text at the end in here. So like that. And as said, a GNG will do a cross check, and whenever you use a color that is not in the list, it won't allow you to save this entry. This is just to make it more predictable later on when creating the sector files. So now, I would just save that one so we have it for sure. Oh, and you see there is an invalid line. Line 166, so I found is that one. And the only mistake here is actually a tab. Yep, that's not so nice. But anyway, this should now work. We track that. Ah, accepted. So well done. You see now the entry. You see it's Alpha Kilo Julia Kilo. It's category ground layout out of the drop down list here. There is no specific name yet. It's also not necessary because like that it will be displayed in the controller client just as Hotel Kilo Julia Kilo ground layout. And the code is here shown empty, but that's just to save data while loading. If you click on it, you get instantly any data you added before. You have now a few more options actually as well in the dialog before. I didn't use them yet. Here you have the chance to remove colors either in Euroscope client or VRC client. Remove color means just that this definition of color here at the end will be omitted while creating a sector file. This might be useful if you want to allow the user to use his symbology defined color for a certain category and not predefined, because if you define it with a color like that, it's not to be changed by the user directly in the scope. If he wants really to change the color, he has to make changes in the sector file, which is actually not the intention. So be careful in here removing colors, especially for ground layouts where you use different colors and those are all in the same category of the client. It really doesn't make any sense to remove the color. Then, ES section, you can choose in which section this entry shall be displayed. In Euroscope, it should be the Geo section as well for VRC. If you don't select any section here, it won't be included in the sector file for this scope, for this client. So make sure you choose here, and the most appropriate, of course, for ground layouts is Geo. You can add some notes here. This will be not included in the GNG or in the sector file at all, but stored here. It's in use, of course. Every entry that is done here is immediately in use. The only way to not have it in use is just to select here empty here as well, so it won't be either included in the Euroscope or the VRC sector file. So as it is now here, the ground layout of Kenyatta is transferred to GNG. You can check that immediately if you want to go to Files, hit Developer File, go, for example, here to the Euroscope sector file. It is instantly rendered the current version, really out of the data of the current data when you're working on your GNG. And you see here all the definitions of the color lists, which will be included. And if you change now the colors here, it will instantly change. So you might use that page just for your developer needs. And if we go further down, because you know now it's the Hotel Kilo Juliet Kilo ground layout, you see here in the geo section, because it's the only entry, exactly this part is in here. And you see as well here the comments are omitted again. This is just to reduce actually the size of the sector file. That's about how to transfer a ground layout properly into GNG. Have fun doing it yourself.